Hello, Scale Modeling Twins again. We're going to look at another kit that I finished, not that recently, but not too long ago. I've been pretty slack with recording these, I must admit. So this is Trumpeter's 1/48 scale MiG-23 MF, or the Flogger B in NATO parlance. You can see the principal scheme there is a Czechoslovakian, Czech Republic, I should say, scheme, the Hellfighter. That's not what I went for. I went for the alternative boxing, which is that one there, a Polish one. And it looks very different from that one for reasons I'll go into. So very quickly, I'll show you how it turned out, but then we'll go through all the other good guff because I've made a couple of changes to it. So this is, as I say, the 48 scale Trumpeter MiG-23 MF. M is upgraded avionics. F is the upgraded engine power. Same as it, like MiG-21 had an MF version as well that Russia sold to certain countries that they sort of tolerated more than others and all that stuff like that. So I'll move that aside. Let's bring up the instructions, quickly go through them. Right, booklet here, all the parts list. Standard sort of stuff. So it starts with the seat, put that together, and the engine, same deal. Now, the way the engine comes out is like that. So there's a bit, as you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parts that make up that. I had then bought an Eduard upgrade set. So you can see the afterburner ring in there. There's 3 levels of it, actually. It's quite intricate. That's the standard engine, and then you get a choice of nozzles that go on the end of that. So whether it be closed or open, depends on the power setting. And that would go not directly onto that, but onto the fuselage directly behind that. That looks a bit naff, so I didn't bother going with either of those. I went for an aftermarket one, and I'll get to that in a minute. But that's the engine. So if you upgrade it, you get the ring, the afterburner ring down there, and that looks nice. I haven't painted that. I just put that in because I had the brass cockpit, standard sort of thing. Left and right fuselage halves, no surprise. This goes together like a standard aircraft. Now this aircraft has a keel that I've, my notes here, folds right. I wanted to make sure it goes the right way because this one shows it down. If you have gear down, then the keel is up. It's mechanically linked, and so it can't go wrong. They can't accidentally land with the keel down and have a tail scrape and everything else, but folds to the right. So that's my note there. The inlets are interesting. These are, funnily enough, a direct copy of the McDonnell Douglas Phantom II inlets, because they had the plans for it and all that sort of stuff. They could see the pictures, but they didn't have any idea how it all worked. But they just copied it anyway. But so these are virtually identical in shape and function to the Phantom, because foreign intelligence agencies and everything else. But the way it actually works is you've got those brass bits there. This is the upgrade set again. Have a suction, a vortex created to take away the boundary layer. So the air, this fence splits the boundary layer from the intake of the engine, and then as it goes from there to there, it builds up more of a boundary layer, and these ones take away. They get a progressively higher rate of suction through vortices and everything else, to have undisturbed flow by the time it gets to the actual intake lip. So that's that bit of guff there. The main gear bay turns out like this. Again, this is with all the embellishments of the photoetch upgrade kit added. So it has a floor on it. You can't see, it's upside down. But there's only 4 parts of that. 1, 2, 5 parts. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 10 or 11 or so. So there's a couple of extra tubes and stuff. That diagonal bracket there is brass. You can't tell because it's all in the blue-grey sort of color that it would be, but that's the best you get in the kit, which is not bad. However, my view is the most interesting part of this aircraft, as far as I'm concerned, is the undercarriage. It's quite a complicated thing. So I paid for an upgrade set. Again, we'll get to that in a minute. Nose gear comes together, and then you've got the top and bottom sections join up. This is obviously a swing wing, so it's got this pretty funky thing that it can, keep its left and right angles without sort of getting too confused. And it all works rather well, but what I found is it's a bit noisy and squeaky. So at the end of the day, I just sort of glued mine in the swept position because it takes up less space and it looks pretty funky. And also with these aircraft, they didn't have a rotating pylon assembly. So all the stores were pretty much on the bits that didn't move. So there's no real point having the wings out just to have stores sitting a certain way because there aren't any on the wings. A couple of bits and bobs with air brakes and wing closure mechanisms. That all comes together. Throw on the vents, variable exhaust nozzles. You got the big fin, the glare shield, the canopy, and then you get onto the undercarriage. Now there are a number of little bits and pieces that go towards that. Again, I overly complicated it because I can. Tiny little reference antennae, BIFF, and this is a review periscope and whatnot. You've got a gun that sits under the ventral center line. Big missiles, R-23s, which are Apex missiles. Different ones of that. It comes down to a different seeker head. So you've got R-23, R-23T, R-24R and R-24T, but they look pretty much the same to my eye. The R-13s, which are pretty much the Aphid, Atoll missiles, the backwards engineered, reverse engineered sidewinder from the one that the Russians got from the Korean War. It got stuck in the exhaust pipe of a MiG, and they flew it home and then just took it all apart and spread that all around. So they've got pretty much what look like sidewinders. And they've got the Aphid missiles, the smaller ones. These are a later one that came along. And you've got a choice of centerline tanks and where they all go. As you see, they all go on the inner wing section. You've got nothing really on the outsides. So that's the instructions. I wanted to zhuzh it up a bit. So the way that the instructions come, you've got a separate paint plan. This is simply burnt iron, metal brown, red, and aircraft grey for a Czech Republic Hellfighter. It's got a big devil on the tail. And these, the radome ones, the stripes there and the shark's mouth and the eye are all decal, and the devil is in the details, is a decal as well. That's pretty much all you get. The rest you paint yourself. So it wouldn't be too bad, but you've got to do the demarcation between the white and the red, which could be a little bit tricky. I don't particularly like that scheme. It's, it looks interesting, but I wanted to go a more just functional one. So this is the other scheme they do, and it's got a fair number of stencils. As you see, as I applied them, I used a highlighter and colored them in. This is a MiG-23MF from 1999 in Polish service. I had a look around on the internet. I couldn't find one with the Polish service that was anywhere near this color. I could see Czech Republic ones that were this, but mainly they were a separate sort of color as well. So what I did in the end, I wasn't particularly happy with that, although it looks fantastic. I don't think it's accurate. So I went for and downloaded from ScarMate's plans. This is a MiG-27, so it has a different radome on it and different gun and all that sort of stuff. It's generally the same donor aircraft, but these colors, Eduard, of course, are in the Czech Republic, and they can get up close to these aircraft. So I believe that their colors would be correct. So I used these as a guide, took notes at the back of what colors and whatnot, and put it all together and sort of came up with that one. So it's a mix of sort of like F111 sort of colors, but there's more of a sand brown in there as well. The other embellishments I put on it were, oh, sorry, that's a plan for the missiles, and they're generally white with the launch rails being grey. but there's a number of decals there, and you can see the size of the missiles and everything else. I had bought, as I tend to like to do, MiG-23 MF upgrade set for the Trumpeter kit, and it's a pretty big sheet. It's that size, so it's larger than most. And I looked at it and thought, well, there's enough there to make it worthwhile. Now, let's see. So behind you got the launch rails behind the ejection seat. Take them out, replace them with that, and then you put the seat in there. You can't see them. The window sill, a couple of handles on the ejection seat. You've got scissor links, nose wheel steering links for the nose gear. A couple of vents. This is like an APU outlet, an inlet. You've got. I had closed air brakes, so I didn't put on these loops. Same with those ones. What this kit does, instead of embellish the inlet ducts, and that's a photo which it comes with the Trumpeter kit, is actually take it all off, which is the red, and then replace it with a bent up part. So this had the full intakes, which are those bits there each side, and you bend them up, so they totally replace the inlets of that. Parachute housing on the inside, should you want it split open. I didn't. These are the, I mentioned before, the 3 burner rings for the afterburner in the engine. So put those rings on there. Nose wheel well, fair bit of hydraulic lines and a couple of avionics lines, I'd imagine. You've got the uplock micro assembly there. This is the roof of the main wheel well, and the APU exhaust inlet, whichever one that is. I think it's that one's at the inlet. And you've got all these little holes that go, well, the little dimples under the, just behind the main landing gear. And you fill in all the dimples with these little bits, and there's 4 of them, 4 of them, 5 of them, 5 of them, and a couple of these longer ones and all that stuff. Fill all that in. You've got an inlet duct on the center line, and then these are you cut away the inlet guide vanes on the inside of the inlets, and you replace them with these flat bits, and you make up these are the bleed indoors, the bleed doors, and pop out, and they're quite intricate. It's like you make up a little bookshelf, like a little Billy thing from IKEA, and you replace the outer ones there. And then you line the canopy with forward, back, left, right, and everything else. So that's the upgrade set. Apart from that, I also then went and bought a brass pitot tube because I could. It's quite a long one, so I didn't want to bend it, break it, or whatever. I'd bought a Reskit resin. This is it here. The Flogger exhaust nozzle for the Trumpeter kit, M and MF. Now, what's pretty cool with this, you've got all those pieces there. Cut away the red part, stick it all together. And these engines, when they're not powered, when they're not running, the VENs, the variable exhaust nozzles, as we call them on the Hornets, just rest, and they just sort of like flop down. When they're running, they're powered. These move by hydraulic pressure. The hydraulic fluid they use as fuel, because it's all at the back of the engine anyway, readily available in vast amounts for the afterburner. So they use that to pressurize the lines to move these variable exhaust petals, if you like. So when it's sitting on the ground and not running, it flops down like that. So you have a choice of whether it's going to be powered or unpowered. Absolutely fantastic kit, that one. Really enjoyed the process. I'd also bought a Brassin resin main wheel well for it because, as I've said before, my opinion is the interior of the main wheel wells are probably the most interesting part of this kit, and they are fairly intricate. So what I saw there was you've got a left and a right hand side. You've got all these other little bits and bobs that go on there, and what color you paint them. So you've got tire black and a yellow, and you've got a olive drab and a red brown, and you paint all those bits up that simply aren't there on the kit itself. And then with the resin parts then form the hinges for the that's all the parts you get. There's a number of them. form the hinges for the undercarriage as it sort of comes down. You've got the actuators, they're wrapped in PE as well, which form the hydraulic lines. And same again with the little petal doors, the actuators to open the escape doors. So that's all brass. Then I went and bought, because the missiles are so prominent on this because they're white, I went and bought, these ones were an afterthought because I had bought the larger ones because they're actually really huge, but these Aphid ones are fairly small. But it comes with a pack of 4 and the launch rails for it. So the Brassin ones there, as you see, is a bit, a lot of really tiny, small parts, including the covers that go over the roller-ons that they remove before flight, and it has remove before flight tags on them, which I haven't used, and they're still in the brass there, as you see it, the little sort of pink hang down sort of strap thing they'd pull out of the pins before they launch, and the APU 60 rails covered with decals again. All those pieces. So that's the Aphid missiles, the R60s or AA8s. And then primarily I'd bought these ones, the R23Rs, for the Eduard Trumpeter kit, blah, blah, blah. So you paint them mainly white with a red cap and the FOD cover that goes over the seeker head. Resin, fins, you've got, it is, as you see it all goes together like that. So they're all the parts you get for that, including the pre-printed red parts that wrap around the seeker head like that. So all those extra bits go to how they turn out. So, all right, let's do this without trying to drop it. Exhaust, as I say, in the unpowered state, it all sort of flops down as you see it there. So if I can lift that up, let's try to shine a light in there to see what you can see. The afterburner ring is, I'm trying to look at 2 screens at the same time. There we go. It's down there. So the Russians love this sort of green color. There we go. So that's a fair way down, and it's quite a bit of work in there. That's all that the Reskit one. Really good addition, that. It's not often you look down the back end of this, but it's, I think, a really, really nice addition. The missiles on the side, the Aphid ones, Apex are the larger ones. They're absolutely huge compared to the size of the seat and the cockpit there. Massive missiles. So that's the main reason I got them, is to, have them looking a little bit more sort of zhuzhy. And the Aphid missiles, it's 2 on each launch rail that go underneath the belly there, each side of the external tank. So it makes it look all quite busy. These do look tough from the front because they've got so many sort of things that stick off them. The nose wheel well has all bits of PE and all stuff in there, but admittedly you don't see a lot of it because it's all painted in the same sort of color and everything else. These main wheel wells, I think, are worth the extra money. They're not too expensive either. Again, I'll shine a light in there, so it's an uncharacteristically bright thing, but they're a very busy cavity. Different sort of shuttle valves and snub valves and everything else for the operation of the undercarriage. It's a very interesting way that these ones work. They flip around upside down, so you've got the main hinge point at the front. The main bar pretty much just rolls up, pulled up by that actuator there, but then the wheel itself sort of tucks around and it just sort of sits in on an angle either side of the engine there. But that's pretty cool. Again, all the brass around the back there, you don't really notice it because it's all really small parts. And the inlets, let's see, I haven't shone a light down here in Yonks. Is it worth it? Can you see the interior of the, yeah, you can, but you need a torch. So you'll see them if you crane your neck and do everything else that IPMS don't want you to do. Well, IPMS will do, certain judges, but nobody else wants you to play around with that stuff. So that then is the MiG-23 Flogger B NATO code name in Polish service. And I started this one. This is actually the first Russian aircraft I've ever made. True story. I sat down, started building this, and then after about 3 or 4 days, Vladimir Zelensky turned up in the White House, and he had that awful session where he was just berated by that awful president that the US have got at the moment. And I just put this away because I swore off building anything either Russian or American, and that lasted a while. So I built a Hurricane instead, and that'll be another video. But I came back to it eventually, and I think it was worthwhile. I'm no longer angry at Russia. I'm still angry at certain dickheads that are still in the Oval Office. But you make up your own mind. Not my country, not my circus. I just think guys are rounding up the wrong people. There we go. Enough politics, apparently. That's a MiG-23 Flogger B, the MF version by Trumpeter. It's a good kit. Like, it's a solid kit. There's no real problems with the plastic at all. All the extra bits I put on it made it an interesting build, and it did take a while. The main difficulty I had, the only difficulty I had, is really trying to choose the colors, because I think the Trumpeter instructions are just so far wrong that like the good people of China have never been anywhere close to one of these MiG-23s. But I think Eduard did their research correctly, as I love Eduard and their research and everything else they put into it. So I went with their color recommendations, and I think if they were trying to copy the swing wing capability and everything else of a an F-111, they copied the colors as well. So it's almost a Southeast Asia scheme, although it's a different environment. But it does look, I think it's pretty bloody cool. It's a funky design. And I did, after that, I did go back and recently, in fact yesterday, finish another MiG. But that'll be another video another day. But as I say, I'm not particularly angry with certain oligarchy states and all that stuff like that, but other ones, yeah. Shout out to everyone in Portland and Illinois and all the other places that are just simply standing up to someone who's been convicted of more crimes than Al Capone. That's enough politics. Uru, enough waffle. We'll see you next time. Bye.